Further debate? I recognize a member for Flamborough-Glanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member from Mississauga Lakeshore for bringing forward this important bill. And I'm pleased to stand here today to speak to the Life Settlements and Loans Act 2020. This bill would modernize a section of the Insurance Act to allow for life settlements and life loans in Ontario. The proposed changes would allow people to access the fair market value of their life insurance policies. Ontario has a large and growing senior population. Seniors are living longer, and as a result, they have increasing medical costs. Most seniors are on some form of fixed income. This bill, Madam Speaker, would provide our seniors with a much-needed alternative for finances. It would allow them to access the fair market value of their life insurance policies as they do in the United States, the UK, Europe, Japan, and in the province of Quebec. Many seniors would like to have the option of selling their life insurance policies to third parties or using their policies as collateral for loans. Currently, policyholders are prohibited from surrendering their life insurance policies to anyone other than their insurer. As a result, consumers receive significantly less value than they would in a well-regulated secondary market. When policyholders first buy insurance, it's typically because they have a specific priority at the time of their lives. However, priorities often change over time. Unless there is a specific need, many seniors would prefer to have income or capital for their retirement years rather than a death benefit for their heirs. The current rules, Madam Speaker, have been in place since the 1930s. By modernizing insurance legislation, policy owners could maximize their policy value by selling or borrowing from third parties in addition to their insurer. The Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario would provide the required oversight. The regulatory authority would be using well-established international best practices to ensure consumers are protected. These changes are critical given the many years of low investment returns. In jurisdictions where third parties are allowed to buy insurance policies or make loans based on the insurance policy as collateral, the market has typically provided a fair market value of 4 to 8 times higher than the value offered to policy owners by the insurer. Life insurance owners should have the fundamental right to optimize their asset as they see fit. Currently, policy owners have only 2 options if they no longer require the death benefit or if the premiums become unaffordable. They can let their policy lapse and receive the cash surrender value. They won't have to pay further premiums, and their beneficiaries will not receive a death benefit. Or they can borrow a percentage of the current cash surrender value from the insurer, pay interest on the loan to keep the premiums current, while retaining a share of the death benefit. Madam Speaker, these are limited options that have resulted in almost 80% of life insurance policies never paying out their death benefit. An open market for life insurance policies will not only provide cash for the policy owner, it will reduce what they have to pay out. This change would help seniors overcome financial hardship and improve their quality of life. A portion of the death benefit could be retained. The time has come to respect the rights of consumers, in this case, primarily seniors, by modernizing Ontario's Insurance Act and eliminating the gross imbalance created by the current regulations. This bill amends the current prohibition so that it does not apply if the life insurance policy is sold or assigned by the original policyholder or a transferee, used as collateral security, or donated to a charity. Madam Speaker, funds from a life settlement or loan transaction would improve the quality of life of seniors who are facing financial strains. Accessing equity in their life insurance policies is a benefit that should not be denied consumers. Thank you.
Further debate? I recognize the member from Toronto Centre.
Thank you so much, Speaker. And it's a pleasure to rise today to speak to M219. However, I am concerned about the ramifications of the changes proposed in this bill. M219 helps big multinational corporations take money away from Ontario families. The provincial government should instead be working to prevent financial exploitation, especially against our vulnerable seniors, many of whom are living on precarious fixed incomes and struggling to afford the basic necessities of life. I'm extremely concerned that this bill would give predominantly American corporations a loophole that would allow them to make quick cash off people who are in a tight financial spot. Speaker, I often run into a senior in my riding named James. I see him occasionally at the grocery store or on the streets, and we've spoken at events hosted by the local seniors group at the 519 Community Centre. And James has a great joke. He always loves to tell me about chicken cacciatore, and I won't repeat it in the House because it's a little bit cheeky, but James always makes me smile when he retells his favourite punchline over and over again. But, Speaker, James is currently paying 75% of his income on his rent. 75% of his income. And every year, his landlord applies for above-guideline rent increases in his apartment building. And his rent goes up and up and up every single year, and his fixed income does not go up every single year. And so every year he becomes more and more reliant on food banks, on meal programs from our community, and on social services to provide for the basic necessities of his life. So imagine passing a bill that takes advantage of the financial precarity of elders like James in our community. And these are people who have spent their whole lives working hard, raising families, building up our communities, and only to be abandoned and taken advantage of in their golden years. Currently, in Ontario, only insurers or their authorized agents can sell or trade in life insurance policies. The amendments to the Insurance Act that are in this bill would allow the policyholder to cancel an agreement to sell a life insurance policy without any reason within 10 days of entering into an agreement to sell. This bill is a favour to corporations that traffic in life settlements. The Canadian Life and Health Association says most of them are American businesses, not Ontario, not Canadian corporations, where in the States this predatory practice is largely legalized. The Canada Life and Health Association opposed Bill 162, a nearly identical bill introduced in 2017, and in a release at the time they noted, and I quote, "The life and health insurance industry does not support the proposed amendments under Bill 162 or providing for any exceptions to the prohibition under Section 115, as to do so would open up a largely vulnerable population, senior policyholders, to potential financial exploitation. Prior to making any changes, we would strongly encourage policymakers to carefully examine the real harm to permitting trafficking outlined below and to engage in meaningful consultations with all stakeholders on this very serious issue." End quote. In the United States, the life settlements game is plagued by fraud and abuse, and allowing the same practices in Ontario could lead to rampant financial exploitation of our seniors who are pressured into selling their life insurance policy at a loss to a third-party trafficker. The Ontario Financial Services Regulator went so far as to post a warning about trafficking life insurance offers on its website. And these are very, very concerning red flags, and for that reason I will not be supporting this bill. Now more than ever, especially as our seniors are concerned about the impact of COVID-19 in our community, we should be doing more to protect their financial stability. And I think of seniors like James in my community when I say that, and I ask the government to do more. Thank you.
We're in the middle. We're in the middle of private members' bill. Further debate. I recognize the member from Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you very much, Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise today to speak in favour of my colleague's bill, the Life Settlement and Loans Act. Speaker, as my colleague alluded to earlier, this is a necessary legislative change that is long overdue. Currently, Ontario's Insurance Act prohibits anyone, aside from an insurer or their duly authorized agent, from selling and trading in life insurance policies. Essentially, if a person has a life insurance policy and for some reason decides that they no longer want or need it, they unfortunately don't have very much options open to them. Speaker, this proposed legislation, if passed, will give the people freedom to choose what they want to do with their policy by removing the outdated prohibitions within the existing legislation. As mentioned by my colleagues, currently our seniors only have two options that they can choose from when they are trying to halt their life insurance. With the first option, the policyholder could let their policy lapse and receive the policy's cash surrender value, the CSV, Essentially, their policy would cease. They would stop paying premiums, and they would be paid out at a rate the insurance company decides. With the second available option, an eligible policyholder could borrow a percentage of the CSV from their insurer, and while paying interest on the borrowed amount, the policyholder would still continue to pay their premiums and keep the death benefit minus the loan. Speaker, as you can tell, neither of these options provides a lot of flexibility. Is the policyholder not entitled to have more than just two choices? Right off the top of my head, I can think of a number of reasons why someone would no longer want or need a life insurance policy. Speaker, we are hearing calls for these changes directly from folks who are affected by this, and I'm here to tell you that my colleague, the MPP for Mississauga Lakeshore, has heard those calls and has put forth this great bill. Speaker, I intend on voting in favour of this bill, and I encourage all my colleagues in the House to do the same.
I return to the member from Mississauga Lakeshore, who has 2 minutes to reply.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to my colleagues from Whitby, Flamborough, Glenbrook, Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill, Humber River, Black Creek, Davenport, and Toronto Centre for their help and constructive and thoughtful comments today. I'd also like to thank the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility, the Minister of Finance, and their policy team for all the feedback so far. I'd like to thank the Office of the Legislative Council for their assistance with this bill, and everyone else who helped us along the way, particularly Paul Tyers and his team at the Canadian Life Settlements, who was always available for questions. I'd also like to thank Michael Cole for his work on the previous version of Bill in 2017. And most of all, once again, I want to thank the seniors, Morris, Warren, Arthur, and Millen, and many more, who reached out to me about the injustice of Section 115. It inspired to see a 95-year-old World War II veteran or a senior with very serious form of multiple sclerosis fight to change the outdated and unjust law. I'm looking forward to studying this further in committee and consulting with stakeholders, both with experts from the industry and with seniors groups, as my friend from Whitby suggests, including the committee and the Minister of Seniors and Accessibilities. Thank you.
The time provided for private members' public business has expired. Mr. Cazzetto has moved second reading of Bill 215, an act to amend the Insurance Act. Is it the pleasure of the House that the motion carry? I heard a no. Oh. I beg your pardon. Bill 219, not 215. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Is it the pleasure of the House that the motion carry? No. I heard a no. All those in favour of the motion will please say aye. Aye. All opposed to the motion will please say nay. Nay. Okay, in my opinion, the ayes have it. On division. Okay, so I declare the motion carried on division.